Sorry, we all good to go? It's with 28 seconds in, Councillor Russ. I'd like to declare the meeting open, and before we commence proceedings, I'd like to advise that the City is live streaming this meeting, and by being present, you're consenting to the City recording your image and or voice. Could I call upon Deputy Mayor to do the Welcome to Country?
Thank you, Worship. I'll begin by acknowledging my elders past and present. Ngalak yini kurang kolong ngalak noach neji nonga buja. Nonga mo jerpen neji nene kwabarak nonga buja kurlong. From the beginning of time to the end, this is Noongar country. Noongar people have been graceful keepers of our nation for many, many years. Jinin kadajin jerpen neji were nonga buja ngala maya border. Look, listen, understand and embrace all the elements of Noongar country that is forever our home. Hello and welcome. My heart is happy as we gathered on Noongar country and here meeting on Noongar country tonight. Thank you.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here, and before commencing proceedings, I'd like to acknowledge that we come together tonight on the traditional lands of the Noongar people and pay our respects to the elders past and present. Could I call upon Councillor Sherilyn Wood to do the dedication?
May we, the elected members of the City of Kwinana, have the wisdom to consider all matters before us with due consideration, integrity and respect for the Council Chamber. May the decisions made be in good faith and always in the best interest of the greater Kwinana community that we serve.
Item 4, attendance. Apologies, leave of absence previously approved. There is nil. I don't believe there was any public questions time. Do councillors have any petitions? Does anyone have a presentation? There are no deputations. Item 7.1, minutes of ordinary council meeting held on the 22nd of May 2024. Is there any additional information? Councillors have any questions? Would someone like to move that way? Moved Councillor Rouse, seconded Deputy Mayor. Would either councillor like to speak? Anyone speak against? Put to the vote, all in favour? Against? Carried. Item 7.2, minutes of the special council meeting held on the 27th of May. No additional information? No questions from the councillors? Someone like to move that way? Moved Councillor Sargent, seconded Councillor Acker. Any of the councillors like to speak? Speak against? Put to the vote, all in favour? Against? Carried. Do elected members or city officers have any declarations of interest? Nil. Request for leave of absence? Councillor Rouse?
Yes, Your Worship, I'd like to request leave from the 11th September to the 18th of September, please.
Anyone else? No? Would someone like to move that way? Moved Councillor Wood, seconded Councillor Kearney. Put to the vote, all in favour? Against? Carried. Nothing on item 10, nothing on 11, nothing on 12, 13, 14, 15, item 16, 16.1, Verge Collection Review 2024. Is there any additional information?
Nothing further.
Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Penny?
Yeah, thank you for the thorough report on the Verge Waste Collection Review. I just wanted to ask if what provisions are in place to review the new service provision contract and how that occurs within the mechanisms that already exist within the city, or does this need to be sort of added onto this report to say that you know the provision of this service be reviewed within 3 years, etc. Yeah, that's my question about the review process. And do you take into account the feedback from residents, and how is that compiled and reported back?
Through you, Your Worship, just to, I guess, take one step back to be able to answer the question. The current contract is completes at the end of this next financial year, and upon determination of the outcome of this report, we would then go through that procurement process and tender process to be able to obtain the appropriate supplier for the pre-booked services that we're proposing. And in that, we would build in a whole range of initiatives that hasn't been drafted as yet, but certainly we can ensure that there are measures in that process, in that tender document, as to how they would be responding to, any service issues, risks, feedback, etc. How they would deal with that. But typically, a service like this is a 3-year tender process, and we lock it in for 3 years, and we would evaluate it at the end of that 3-year period, as we have with the current service, in terms of where the market is at, how much is it costing us from a social, economic and environmental point of view, how does it meet with the requirements of the state, etc. As we have with this review, we would undertake that multi-criteria analysis to determine whether we want to continue on the path of this pre-book service, or whether any part of it needs to be tweaked or changed, having regard to all those elements. So that would be the approach that we would take at the end of that 3-year or 5-year period, or whatever that period is that we actually appoint those services for. I hope that answers all the parts of your question.
If I can add a secondary question, I think that really clearly outlines the procurement processes and the review of the services being provided by that company. My question, which I'd like a deeper dive or response to, is how to integrate the feedback from community as to whether this strategy is really working for our local community. We might have a fantastic provider, and if that report would typically come to council and be discussed.
Through you, Your Worship, that similar to what we've done in this instance, where we've actually the city undertakes that engagement with the community around the service and how they're approaching that service. There can be numerous touch points through the contract period to determine of actually identifying how that would work, subject to the outcomes of this, but we can certainly build that into various stages in the, the delivery of the contract. But certainly at the end of the contract period, or towards the end, we would be doing that as the city, as we have in this instance, to determine whether the service needs to be tweaked, adjusted, changed, to determine and bring that back, as we have in this instance, to say, we think it's working, this is what the engagement results are saying, that this is what the community is saying, this is what we think should be changed for the next contract period, so that you can have your input in that space. No different to what we're doing now.
Mr. CEO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just further to what Ms. Cook was saying, the other part where we would get valuable information from the community, which then I think comes to your point around the strategy, is obviously we undertake community surveys regarding all the services that we undertake, which is undertaken on a 2-yearly period. So that is an important feedback mechanism where the community come back on all our services, and they have the opportunity also to provide comments to it. Those comments then come through to the council, and then we look to see how they align with our services and how they align with the objectives.
Is there any other questions? Councillor Michael James Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. With an on-demand service, how can the city guarantee that the service provider can actually provide enough pickups ahead of the bushfire season, noting that a large number of residents may request the service at the same time around that period?
Essentially, we would be building that into the contract in terms of what we put out in the tender as the requirements, where we expect there may be some heavy volume of requests, and the ability to meet those requests by that supplier. That's how we would build it into the tender process.
Cool. And sorry, just a follow-up. And would that be in the form of, say, a minimum service levels that guarantee levels of pickup around those time periods, or is there other mechanisms?
That's correct, yeah. So we would build in the expectation around those timeframes and their ability to provide for high volumes of requests at that same time for that same service. That's assuming that that's based on what we provided at this point in time, or what we expect might be the case. But it is very much, as you can appreciate, we don't know what people are going to be booking in. We can just anticipate what that may be. And look to have those suppliers or contractors respond to those requirements and assess it on that basis.
Is there any other questions? I have one. Mrs. Cook, could you just let us know the percentage of the community that currently utilises the green waste collection?
I can't give you the percentage off the top of my head. Sorry,
Okay, I believe
take it on notice.
Sorry, I believe it's only 17% of the community currently uses garden waste, just as a point of reference. Does anyone else have any questions? Councillor Sargent?
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. I just wanted to reiterate in this public forum, I know the extensive work the city has done in looking at these options regarding the recycling initiatives with the plan towards waste reduction, and how the city is going to educate the community with that to go hand in hand with this change to still maintain that recycling initiatives that when people say people take things off of the verge, that they're getting rehomed, that we have looked at that and how to address that going forwards, please.
That was somewhat of a preamble.
Sorry, I had a conversation with the CEO regarding certain initiatives the city had looked into and was planning to advertise around supporting the recycling of waste today.
So basically, because I've had this conversation with you, so basically what you're asking is what will be put in place to allow someone to put a couch on their verge and someone collect it without actually them being penalised? Is that kind of...
So I believe that we do not, because of illegal dumping, want to encourage that. I believe what we're looking at is the ability that you can use forums to post that I have a free item, that recycling or initiatives through, sorry, I'm going to answer my own question out loud. I just felt that it should be raised with this, the Salvation Army or Red Cross, and how the city is engaging these recycling services to go hand in hand with this, to impact the waste removal and still allow the community that opportunity without feeling penalised.
Through you, Your Worship, the city is already undertaking, as you're aware, that sort of education around avoidance and trying to reduce any waste going back in as any item being dumped or used as a waste product, but bring it back into that circular economy and sharing. And that's why we've entered into trials, whether it's for textiles and then it potentially expanding that trial to broader household goods. So irrespective of the decision tonight, that will continue. That's all part of our plan to make sure that the community starts to work towards that sharing of resources, reducing the need to buy new and recycle goods that are not that are worthy of recycling to use again, to give life to something that's old to someone else but new for another household.
Sorry? Further question?
Thank you for that clarification. I just felt that community had expressed their lack of being able to recycle and repurpose, so that the city has said that they are doing that regardless of the decision of council tonight, to know that that option stands behind us. I think that needed to be said tonight. Thank you.
Any other questions? Would someone like to move the recommendation? Moved, Councillor Kearney, seconded, I will second it myself. Councillor Kearney, would you like to speak on the item? Would anyone else like to speak? Because if so, I'll suspend standing orders. I think this is a fairly significant item that people should have a say on. I'll suspend standing order 9 to allow for conversation in relation to this item. Someone to second that. Seconded Councillor Sargent. I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? Who would like to speak on the item, either for or against?
I have a brief word, Your Worship. Obviously, there's two options in WA for our verge waste to be collected: mass collection, which we're doing at the moment, and pre-booked verge collections. The business case, as tabled out, is the preferred option. It's the strongest option. It's the preferred option of 70% of our residents. We've got a lot of small lots now being built, developed in our city. And with the introduction of the go bin and those lots not having much shrubbery, there's a little need for those households to be provided or utilise a Jeep green waste pickup. Also, the pre-book system would allow those with a general waste clean-up who are sometimes late or not ready or away on holidays to be able to utilise a pre-booked service. They might buy a TV or a washing machine that they can't then get out and have to store for another 6 months until the next waste collection. So this is a good option for them. It also will alleviate. We've been inundated with at pickup times on Facebook and complaints about our streetscapes, how awful they look. As you can see, also people complaining about those people coming late at night, rubbishing through their rubbish and or their waste and spreading it all over the street. So this should alleviate that. This also gives the people might complain that this doesn't give them the same amount of pickups, but I think this could be better served with residents getting together. If they don't have their full three cubic metres of waste, they can team up with their neighbour, put it out together for their 3 cubic metres for one collection, and then those two neighbours can share another collection later on in the year. It's a more equitable system as user pays. As you pointed out, Your Worship, there's only 17% of our households that are utilising the green waste. Of course, this may be a problem for those in our rural areas. But one of these cases they can forego their pickup of their extra hard waste collection, mattress or so, for another green waste pickup. So hopefully all the residents will do the right thing. Hopefully there won't be an increase in illegal dumping, and hopefully this, in 3 years' time, once we review the system, will show that if we approve this today, we've made the correct decision. Thank you, Your Worship.
Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. When going through this, I'm aware, as an elected member, we need to look at the greater good for the whole of Kwinana. And as you have said, my personal household uses every single collection that there is, but looking at the percentages, looking at the numbers, also looking at the flexibility of times. I know from someone in a semi-rural area that occasionally, even though the city tries the best with the green waste collections, and there could be notices from Western Power, so to have that ability that you can book the bin when you need the bin, I think is going to be a more fair and equitable system for the greater of our population, which is what, when we became elected members, we said that we were going to look at problems and address them and make decisions based on what is best for everyone in Kwinana, not a smaller minority. So even though I feel that some residents will not like the change, I think it is the fair and equitable thing to do going forwards in the future. And can we clarify, does this still give the option that if someone wished to order a bin on top of their allocation, that they could pay so at a discounted rate.
Correct.
So having that opportunity as someone that has just recently purchased a skip bin for the bargain price of $330, I'm hoping that the option through the city could potentially reduce that, which gives people an opportunity to manage their stuff, to trade on the buying power of the city. I definitely, like I said, for my personal household, it may not be my preference, but for the information that we've been provided and making a decision for the greater good of the community, I think it's the right way to go.
Does anyone else like to speak on the item? Councillor Penny?
All standing orders are suspended. Yeah, I also think that, this is a huge change for our community, and I think it's really worth having a crack at it, seeing how this works for us locally. The only way that we're going to do that is by introducing it and seeing how it goes. So I did have another couple of questions, if it's appropriate to
That's fine.
ask
You
them
can
now.
yeah,
Yep.
ask away.
We have spoken about a 3 or a 5 year contract. Could you clarify that, like what the preference of the city would be around this?
Given that it's a change, I would expect that we'd go for the 3-year contract.
Great. And this is, again, excuse me, I'm glad that there's some members of the environment team here. In terms of the 17% statistics that's been discussed at the meeting today, my understanding is that was 17% of the actual capacity of that program, not 17% of households. So I don't know if anybody's able to clarify that statistic, but
I wonder if the manager of environment could clarify for us. Yes, please. Could you just come to the microphone, just so we can get it on the.
So the 17% is a ratio of the total eligibility. So every household can put out material at each of those collections, and then it's the percentage of households that have actually used that. So does that answer that question?
so it is a number of households, not like 3 cubic square metres times the number of households.
No,
and
it's the
that's what it was.
utilisation. So how many number of households
Yeah.
that could have put out did put out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
so-
great. Thank you for clarifying
Yeah, so
that.
that
That's great.
I guess that was what I was meaning when I quoted
Yeah.
17%.
Great, thank you.
Did anyone else like to speak? Councillor Deputy Mayor Winmar?
Thank you, Worship. It's quite a comprehensive report, and a lot of work's gone in it, and I commend the environment team for looking at all the options that are available and what could be utilised and what we can look forward to in the future. I'm happy that we're able in a position to be able to trial this methodology before we bed it down and give the community a chance to get accustomed to the new way of doing business. I know that this process gives us a bit of an advantage over other suburbs, driving around the metro area, because we travel a lot in the work that I do, and we do notice there's a build-up in a lot of suburbs of verge waste. I can hold my hand on my heart and say that Kwinana's doing a better job than a lot of other councils, and I think it's an opportunity for this council to put our best foot forward, despite the small amount of people that may be able to transition or have complications about transitioning, but in the long run I think it's the best for the broader community, respectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Just clarification, Worship. Councillor Sargent mentioned a bin, but is that yet to be determined, or is it waste put
I
on the?
believe it's yet to be determined. It will
thank
be
you.
based on the successful tender and the conditions of the tender that the city has yet to set, because I guess it requires this resolution to actually move forward with the next stage. If there's no one else wishing to speak, I will resume Standing Order 9. Someone second that? Councillor Rouse, all in favour? Against? Carried. And I'll finish off by speaking just to say that about 16 years ago, when I first got on council, I raised this at a workshop in relation to waste, and said, could we have skip bins like some local governments, this great thing that local governments are doing. And the officers of the day said, "Oh no, we don't do that. You know, that's too expensive. We can't have skip bins. We can't collect waste like that." Well, 16 years later, and we're talking about dealing with waste in a very different way to the way we have in the past. I guess certainly some of the flaws for this one of which is the fact that I think there's only 2 contractors that currently provide the current bulk waste collection in Western Australia, which makes it very difficult. For them to, it has made it very difficult for them to source workers in the current environment, but it also means that they have a monopoly on the cost and the service they provide. Whereas there is many more players in the waste on demand market, which means that the city should be in a position to get a much more cost-effective product to our community. So in the end, we will get a better product. Ultimately, I think the best benefit to this is that when people want to get rid of their rubbish, they can choose when they get rid of their rubbish, and we don't spend 6 to 8 weeks of the city looking like an absolute complete rubbish tip when people fill their verges. And as one of the councillors did say, once that stuff goes on the verge and people come and have a look through it, they certainly don't leave it in a tidy fashion. And I just think it's a blight on the city that we can do something about this evening. So I guess I strongly suggest that we all support the motion. So based on that, I'll put the motion to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item... You have to stay to the end, Troy. Item 17.1, proposal for parking restrictions at Irisburg Parade and McWhirter Promenade intersection and section of McWhirter Promenade. It's some hard words to get. Is there any additional information?
Nothing further.
Do council have any questions? Councillor Acker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm for the parking restrictions, but are there alternate plans for where these parents are going to be able to park and drop their kids?
There will be. I'm sure someone, Mr. Elkins, I forgot you were sitting there, can answer the question, but Councillor Rouse and I actually met out on site at the primary school with the principal, the P&C, and 3 of the city's traffic engineers, and it was based on that conversation and that observation that led to this item coming to council. It is only a very small part of some suggestions that will be implemented around that primary school to try to make it safer for children after school. Mr. Elkins, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. There isn't really much more to add. My officers did attend with the Mayor and Councillor Rouse, met with the Principal and I believe someone from the P&C, and looked at the issues and provided some suggestions on some opportunities. What's proposed in this is actually not a change to the parking regime. If you have a look at what's proposed, it's really putting signage in place that the rangers can enforce. That is already something you're not allowed to do anyway, but people are doing it, so it's to make it really easy for us to enforce, and that will make a big change and a really fast change to safety. We're also working on assisting the school to make an application for a safe crossing, and then we have our other normal programs that we have as well, which is in addition to what we're doing with looking at parking and traffic, and that's our riding to school and safe ways to school programs, things like that.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
No, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a general question. How does the measures, I guess, mentioned in this report compare to what's been implemented at other school sites in the city, for example, Leader Primary School?
Through you, Your Worship. What's different about this school is it was built for a child capacity of 400 or 450. It's currently running at double that. So something like Leader, there is a congestion problem, but the beauty of congestion, it slows traffic, so it's not creating a safety issue. In this case, we've got kids running across, we've got cars running the wrong way down the road, we've got kids running across that traffic, we've got a curve in the road and traffic can't see to pull out. So the movement, trying to move the traffic on and stop them parking in inappropriate places and looking at how we can get a proper guarded school crossing in place is about a different need to just a congestion problem around Leader and a school that was built for the right a number of children.
Any other questions? Councillor Sargent.
Thank you. When I look at the map on page 79, where you're talking about the placement of the signs, by doing this as well and removing the illegal parking, is that going to give a better line of sight? Because you can see the bend and the corner, that this is going to improve that part of it?
So the other issue, which is the secondary to this issue, as I said, there is a number of solutions to part of their problem, but there's an after the fact kiss and drop that is what the problem is in this situation. And so there needs to be work around that. So there's multiple things that need to occur to actually ensure not there's this no parking area, but also the other issues kind of can do what Mr. Elkins said and hopefully rectify the issue. Did that kind of not answer the question?
That answers the question. Thank you.
Any other questions? No, would someone like to move this way? Moves Councillor Rouse. I'll second it. Councillor Rouse.
Thank you, Worship. As you've stated, and you and I attended Wello Primary School at the request of the PNF and met with on-site engineers. This is not a regular situation as in other schools. I went along thinking it was just a case of lazy parents that needed a bit of education themselves, but this was far worse than I could ever imagine, to the point that it was an immediate, could see the immediate danger to other road users, not just those waiting to pick up their children, an absolute danger to the children crossing the roads. There was cars coming around a bend, travelling on the opposite side of the road where the children were crossing. There were trucks on Irisburg Parade that were forced to travel along. They didn't wait. They were forced to travel along the opposite side of the road for what was 100, 150 metres. And these are two big trucks following each other. And I turned away because there was nearly a head-on crash with those. So it's not a normal situation of just lazy parents who want to get as close as possible to their school to get their kids. Sure, there's a little bit of that involved. But just that education alone would not have solved this problem. These are going to be sort of short-term problems, and there's got to be other implementations that will have to go along with these problems. But at least at the moment, this will give our council rangers a chance to actually try to alleviate and make that area safer in the short term before those longer-term solutions come into play. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Rouse. So I guess as Mr. Elkins said, the issue with this primary school is that it's built for a certain size, and they've certainly I think that it's more than double the number of students that the school was intended to have. The school has been put on a very small site in comparison to many primary schools. There's lots of land available, or in this situation, it's a very small school site, and they're actually trying to. What they have done is they have retrospectively put in a kiss and drop area on both sides of the school, and as we obviously have alluded to, it creates a bank up of traffic. In all the years I've been on council, one of the number one issues, apart from tip passes, the number two issue is parents that contact you, especially in term 1 of school, new parents that say that you need to sort the parking generally at primary schools out. The issue around primary school is only a 15-minute issue, and in most schools the traffic is not travelling at such a speed that it actually causes as much of an issue. But as Councillor Rouse said, in the time that we stood there watching what was going on, and in actual fact the city's engineers who turned up with their fluoro vests on took their vests off so that they weren't actually slowing the traffic down by way of, that's what people generally do. If they see a fluoro vest, they will slow down. So we actually took a step back so we could watch it unfold. And at one point, the principal was forced to actually start helping kids cross the road because, as Councillor Rouse said, cars were trying to turn the corner on a blind corner. It was the most dangerous situation I've ever witnessed outside of a school, and that was just the one day that we were there. That happens every day at that primary school. I believe that Mr. Elkins' team also were going to put a camera up at that intersection so that they can actually determine what exactly is going on and do some other studies and put some other things in place. But yeah, I think this is a very small component to what needs to happen at this primary school. So, did anyone want to speak against? No? I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. 18.1 quarterly performance report, strategic community plan, corporate business plan, Q3, January to March 2024. Is there any additional information, Mr. CEO? Councillors have any questions? Councillor Michael James Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. So my question relates to, it's on page 108, the item Investigate Bertram Centre Urban Design. My question is, what is the intention for this piece of work after the opportunity with Curtin University hasn't worked out? Is there another plan to get that off the ground?
Mrs. Cook.
Through you, Your Worship, the intent of the Bertram Urban Design Framework was to bring in some fresh eyes from students who are working in the urban design space to explore the opportunities around bringing a heart to the Bertram Centre, so trying to link the different precincts and possibly look at public realm improvements, work with the business and community stakeholders with the place team. That was the intent, is to start that discussion and see what we could do in a more innovative, informal fashion, not to necessarily prepare a plan, but start the ideas flowing. Unfortunately, the Curtin wasn't able to initiate it through their program. So we're now looking at the Australian, it's called AUDRIC. It's the Australian Urban Design Review Committee, something like that. I may have that totally wrong, but they're the they do these smaller briefs. Where they can bring their urban design professionals from different companies to do these smaller community projects. Those discussions have just started, and we'll look to explore that in the coming months.
Yep. Any other questions? Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. On page 111, item 4.3, I was just wondering if you could please speak to the Disability Reference Group has been renamed by the members of the Access and Inclusion Group to have a wider inclusion of member diversity. This is a really fantastic comment, but if you could please maybe speak to the change and what that impact has happened for our community, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So previously it was the Disability Reference Group, and I suppose all our group members weren't people living with a disability, and I think access goes across the spectrum, whether that be our seniors, whether it be our community with from diverse communities and so forth. So that was the aim of that, to kind of broaden our access and inclusion, not just to people with a disability, but the whole community.
Fantastic comments and a great body of work. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Councillor Penny.
On page 103, item 2.1, the local economic development strategy, it's understood that that's been presented to the CEO. Could you speak to what the process is for finalising that strategy, if there are plans in place for a workshop or briefing with elected members, and the process for gaining broader community feedback on that strategy? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So just received the draft of that strategy, so that will then be reviewed. It'll go through the exec team internally just for final review. Then a workshop will be held with the councillors, and then the report will be, the strategy will be brought to council. And that's then an opportunity when we'll take it out to get final feedback from the community.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Someone like to move this way? Moved, Councillor Sargent, seconded Councillor Acker. Would either councillor like to speak? Anyone want to speak against? Put to the vote, all in favour? Against? Carried. Item 19.1. Notice of motion received from Councillor Michael James Brown to amend the schedule of ordinary council meetings for 2024. Councillor Brown.
Just to clarify, this is where we speak in...
So you just need to state your motion.
Oh, okay. Just read out the motion?
Yep.
Okay. So the motion is that council resolves to, 1, amend the schedule of ordinary council meetings for 2024 to reflect that meeting commencement time shall be 6 p.m. 2, direct the Chief Executive Officer to publish the amended schedule of 2024 Ordinary Council meetings on the City's website. And 3, direct the Chief Executive Officer to provide notice of this amended schedule to residents via the City's social media, a news post on the City's website, and a physical notice placed in a prominent location at the City's administration building for 10 business days prior to the next Ordinary Council meeting. Do I read out the background?
No, that's what you'll cover off when you speak for.
Okay.
So Councillor Brown has moved the motion. We would need a seconder. Seconded Councillor Penny. Councillor Brown, you can speak to the item.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as elected members, we have been on a journey to elevate our residents' position in this local government and in this democratic process. Over the years, we have fought for their right to have their say. We have fought for their right to know what is happening in their city, whether that's the good news or the challenges. We have fought for their right to know about the role they play in the rate setting process, to know they have a right to give feedback that their elected members must listen to. It has been a journey, and that journey continues today. Currently, the city's meeting times and, on occasion, our public consultation times works against our residents. They don't make sense for a population that typically works 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Unless you work a few minutes from home, it's a real challenge to get here for a 5:30 p.m. meeting. Everyone in this chamber knows the peak hour traffic jams on the freeway makes that near impossible for many. Despite this, we continue to schedule meetings at times that are inconvenient for our residents. By doing so, we continue to schedule meetings that exclude our residents. We continue to schedule meetings that deny our residents their right to take part in the local government process in person. I feel this isn't right. In my time on council, I have seen people run into this chamber on multiple occasions. I've seen residents late for items that were particularly important to them. I've heard from residents who feel left out because they know they can't make it to this meeting on time. What about them? I can't accept the opinion that an online recording is good enough for those residents who work 9 to 5. An online recording is passive. Don't get me wrong, I think it's great for transparency, it's great for reference. But when it's the only opportunity for residents to engage with ordinary council meetings, I feel that's not quite democracy. That's a one-way street. Another thing I've heard on occasion is that residents will make the time, that extra effort to come down if they're particularly passionate about something or feel something is important to them. I can't really accept that either. City staff don't have to ask their employer for time off work to attend a council meeting. Elected members are provided an allowance to be here. But our residents who want to engage in the local government process, our residents who want to review the recommendations and reports put forward by the city, our residents who want to review decisions made by us, the elected members, they have to ask for time off work to potentially lose their pay to exercise their right as a resident of this city. The process is stacked against them. In the form of scheduling, there exists unnecessary barriers for transparency, accountability, and engagement in the city. To me, that's not right. The ability for our residents to come down here, to ask questions, to make presentations, to make deputations in person, that's the fail-safe in this whole process. Elected members can't ignore that. Their physical presence in this chamber is the ultimate reminder of who we work for. When difficult decisions are made and we have to look them in the eye as it's made, that's accountability. We're held accountable to the highest degree when residents are physically in this chamber. Everyone on this side of the chamber knows when residents have come down here, when they have argued their case on an item in person, we have changed our minds. They didn't do that by watching a recording or through any other engagement mechanism. They did that by being here in person. When we physically have guests in this chamber, we're better as a local government. When we maximise the opportunity for our residents to engage, to know what's going on, to hold us accountable, we achieve better outcomes together. When we deny them that right through scheduling, we lose trust. Some could say the local government process is broken and we're all worse off for it. It's time to make a change and open the doors to even more of our residents. Did you know that Rockingham starts their ordinary council meetings at 6 p.m? Did you know that Coburn starts theirs at 7 p.m? Did you know that the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale also starts theirs at 7 p.m? And you could say it's a little silly that residents have until 6 p.m. to cast their vote on local government election day, but their cut-off to watch their elected members represent them in person is 5:30 p.m. Today, we've got an opportunity to shift the dial. It's time to get with the times. It's time to make things just make sense. A meeting time of 6 p.m. at least gives those working until 5 p.m. a proper chance to get here on time, in person. A meeting time of 6 p.m. at least doesn't make us such an outlier compared to the surrounding councils. A meeting time of 6 p.m. only enhances our local government process. while 5:30 p.m. only hinders it. By voting in support of this motion, you're saying to residents that you care about their role in this process. You care about their voice and their right to express it in these chambers. If you're considering voting against this motion, I urge you to ask yourself, why wouldn't you want to maximize attendance in this chamber? Why wouldn't you want voters, residents sitting in these chairs while you make decisions for them? Why wouldn't you want ratepayers who put you in this chair to have their say in person? Thank you for listening and for your consideration of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Penny?
Yep, I simply support this motion. I think it does allow people to travel here. I think it's in alignment with other local governments across the metropolitan region. My understanding is that, you know, in pre-COVID times that the council meetings were at 7 p.m. and I think that 6 p.m. is a good, you know, part way between 5:30 and 7. So that's why I support this motion.
Thank you. Councillors to speak against? Councillor Sargent?
Okay, so I'm not against the concept if there was an evidence need that people wanted to come that they needed the meeting changed to 6 o'clock to be able to attend. What I have looked at is we have a predominant senior community. In my work experience dealing with seniors, they do not want to be out at night time. I don't know if this is something that could be looked at in summer, but in winter, in the evenings, feeling safe and secure to be able to come and attend and advocate. I'm looking at the time since I've been at council, which is not as long as some other people in this room, that anyone that has ever come to sit and speak, except for one member of the community that chooses to sit for the whole time, looking at you, Mandy, they speak their piece and then they leave straight away and have no intention or being here past 6:30 if they can get out the door. The other thing I looked at is about protecting our low social economic communities' ratepayers' dollars, and every half an hour that we move it back is another half an hour of costs to city staff in doing that. If for any reason I had a petition that went, these members of the community felt that they want us to change the time and they're prepared to sign their name on a petition, I feel that I would support that. I feel without having that piece of information that I can't support that, because I'm looking at the actual costs, the actual attendance that I have witnessed in my time in council, and I'm looking at the predominant people in the community that I have seen attend that in my experience do not want to be out later at night. So I'm speaking against this motion and saying that I'm not going to vote for it. Thank you.
I understand that maybe there's some more people just may wish to speak for or against, so I may again suspend Standing Order 9 to allow people to speak freely. Someone second that? Deputy Mayor, all in favour? Against? Carried. Would anyone like to speak either for or against? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you to Councillor Brown for bringing the motion forward for discussion. I can see where the line of argument that he's put up has come from and where it is, and providing the opportunity to make sure there's opportunity for participation from the community. Happy to take some changes and be swayed either way, but I haven't been demonstrated that there is any underlying data or even some testimonials from people that said that they couldn't make the meeting. There's no grounds to suggest that there was be a change of time either way. I think that the changing of the time and taking into account some of the valid points of the argument I do still do think that we need any decision-making process that we need to be involved with needs to be measured, needs to be thought out, we need to go through a process, and it needs to be evidence-based. And unfortunately, on the accounts that my fellow councillors put forward, there's no evidence-based approach to this change. So that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Rouse.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Councillor Brown. Very passionate presentation there for your notice of motion. However, I do not believe either that there's any tangible evidence that a change in start time for councils from 5:30 to 6 o'clock would result in any more ratepayers or residents attending our meetings. When I first started on council, meetings were held at 7 p.m. and more often than not, we didn't have anyone in attendance except if they were making deputations at the time, and I know that was the case for many years beforehand. Since changing to a 5:30, I've seen no change in those attendance records, and I've had nobody in the community lobby me or comment to me that they would come to a council meeting if it was held at a later time, and I've certainly never seen anyone run into a meeting here. It is okay to make assumptions, but to take this step and support this motion, I would need to see evidence to indicate whether a 30-minute start time, a later start time, would have any effect on the number of people attending these meetings. And I do not believe this notice of motion shows that evidence or provides any reasonings. Our council meetings, as Councillor Brown said, are now live streamed. So I think we get more engagement from the public now who watch our meetings and feedback that information to us. And so they can watch online in the comfort from the home if they don't want to come out. If residents want to ask questions of council, they can do so at any time through the means of emailing or calling a councillor, or they can write to the city for an answer. They do not have to attend meetings to do so. If I'm sure it was important enough to make a deputation or ask a question in person, that they would attend a meeting and be able to make it here on time. We actually took a council meeting to the people last year at Nookbourne Maya, and if it wasn't for the kayak members, I don't think there would have been a member of the public in the gallery. There is a high satisfaction rate of communication and consultation engagement within our city. Residents have various methods to have their say, and the city provides those, and we get excellent feedback through our Love My Kwinana website. Although some may not believe it is necessary to consider our staff, which have to be required to attend these meetings, I do think that's an important consideration. Some have long commutes home, and an extra 30 minutes added to their working day may result in them not spending top quality time with their families in the evening. Work-life balance in this day and age is important, not only for productivity, but also staff retention. In response to Councillor Brown, I'm accountable for every decision I make, whether that is because there is a person in this council chamber or not. My decisions are made in good faith and are not swayed in any way by having to look somebody in the eye. So I notice the motion is to relate to the good governance of this district and decisions made in this chamber, and they should be considered based on evidence and sound reasoning. I do not believe a change in council meetings times would have any effect on the good governance of the city, and there is no evidence or sound reason for me to support this motion. Thank you, Your Worship.
Would anyone else like to speak? You indeed can.
Can someone explain to me how it affects the staff? Is it overtime? Is it time off in lieu? How does that staying back
The
affect the
CEO
staff?
could, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer. I actually believe that might not necessarily be 100% correct, because some of the staff are paid by the hour, but the directors are certainly not. I'm correct in saying. So it's only the city staff that potentially would affect. So, but it does still have an impact on some staff, but not all the staff in the room, I guess.
So I guess my question is, does it affect the budget? Are we paying overtime, or are the staff getting time off in lieu? I know myself, when I have to work at night, I'll get time off in lieu. So I'll have like a half a day on a Friday, something like that. What's the process
Yeah,
for
so
our
it's
staff?
time off in lieu. And it may well be time off in lieu, which doesn't cost us anything from a money point of view, but it certainly does cost the organisation from those staff then not being available during the day. So, any other questions? Councillor Brown, you have a question?
Yes, just in regard to the added costs which are being put forward as a reason not to support this, how is that different to a council meeting, for example? A council meeting end times are unpredictable based on the debate that's going to happen, the items and so the questions and so forth. So how is that a fair comparison, given that staff would have to stay back either way?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's a question for you guys to debate. That's not up to us to put that forward. That was a point that was raised, so that's up for you to debate. It's not up to us to clarify that.
I mean, I tend to concur with that statement. I mean, you are correct. There's nothing stopping the meeting from going until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So the start of the meeting is kind of
Thank you for that clarification. It's good to know that it won't have an effect on the budget. In terms
Sorry, so it still does have an effect on the budget.
in regards to the start time, though, there was a question or a statement raised around safety in regards to a later start time. Isn't it true to say that the city has a duty of care to all guests coming here to a meeting, no matter what time the start time is?
I would imagine the city's stock standard insurance would.
No. Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I don't believe that duty of care would respond through. The people are attending on their own volition, so they are coming. They're not a work employee, so they wouldn't come under workers. So I'm not quite sure.
But to come here and sit in this chamber and participate, and no matter what hour, the duty of care is on the city, right? For their safety.
Well, you wouldn't hold a meeting at 10 o'clock, correct?
No, but we hold events here, for example, 7 o'clock, go till late in the evening.
Slightly different.
Okay.
Councillor Sargent.
Sorry, as a person that raised the points, I maybe didn't articulate myself when I was saying about the cost. I was meaning the cost in time, fatigue, moving back half an hour. I know what you're saying, half an hour. When I raise safety, in my time on council, again, apart from one member of community, anyone that's ever actually been present at a council meeting, as soon as their bit is done, they are walking out that door in that car park in that evening by themselves. And I was coming from a point of we have a lot of people in our community that don't actually have a car. We have a lot of people in our community that are elderly, and the concept that I'm aware of someone, but it was resolved prior to it coming to council, that was prepared to come and give a deputation and was going to drive their electric scooter because that was their only means of attending council. But I believe Mr. Elkin's fantastic team rectified that prior to that happening. But I was thinking that the later, especially in winter with weather conditions, if I understand what you're saying with people that are working with the community and wanting to come because they're potentially finishing work at Perth at 5 o'clock and they're not going to get through on the traffic. But I'm looking at the other subset of our community as well. And that's why I said if you had data, I would support you with that. Where I'm coming from is our vulnerable that would like to potentially engage as well. The later the meeting, I see that as a disadvantage to them attending. Sorry?
Anyone else? I'll speak before we resume standing orders. I guess.
Sorry, I do want to say something, but I'm happy for you to speak first.
So I guess I'll start off by congratulating Councillor Brown for, I guess, having the courage to move something different to the council in relation to the notice of motion, because as you will very well know, not many notices of motion are put to the council, and to stand up and state your case, not knowing the view of the council is as I said, I do commend you. I'm personally not either for or against it. I don't have any difficulties either way, but I will just kind of state a few facts. As the longest serving elected member now here, and I come across many members of the public each day, each week, each year over the years, And I actually don't believe that I've ever had anyone that said that if they needed to come to a council meeting that they had any difficulty in doing so. If there was an issue that was significant to them, they would make the time to come, or they would make the time to communicate to council how they actually, what their question was, get an answer for their question. I do have some statistics for you, just so we can look at the difference in time. So far in 2024, we've seen 27 people attend the council meeting. Of that, most of those attendances are one person, Mandy. In the occasions where there's been more than one attend, it's because there's been a significant thing on the agenda, i.e. the most recent one. On the 22nd of May, we had a large number of people that attended because they were against the communications tower in Wandi. We also had 6 people attend on the 24th of the 4th, which were the same people in relation to the same issue. If we go back to 2023, there was 45 people that attended the council meeting at the time of 5:30, and as I kind of glare across the list, on one occasion there was 11 people, but on most occasions there was 0 to 1 person that attended those meetings. Again, I don't have the stats for the occasion where there was 11, which was on the 22nd of March, but I would imagine that's because there was a significant item that came to council that affected the community. Again, the community has come to us in force, and as you have said, the fact that the community have come, we listened to them, and in that, without knowing what the item was, I'm sure that we may have made some amendments to what we looked at. If we move to 2022, obviously we're moving into the later end of COVID, but there was 26 people attended our council meetings in 2022, and in that occasion, there was the most number of people that attended was eight people. Again, I'm making an assumption that they were here because of a significant reason, because over the years, that's generally the reason why you get more than 1 or 2 people, is because of a significant reason. If we head over to 2019, when council meetings started at 7 o'clock, in that year, there was 72 people that attended council meeting. And in that situation, there was a number of significant issues that were before council, one of which was rezoning of land in Wandi on Lion Road, which saw on one occasion us see 13 people attend, and on another occasion we saw 9 people attend. Again, they attended because they had a significant reason to attend, because they had an issue specifically with council that they wanted to have a say on, or hear how council were going to deal with their issue. So I guess over the years, we've met at various times, various locations. The time, the place actually has never really had an impact on the number of people that attend. So again, I'm not necessarily for or against, and another half an hour is neither here nor there for me, but I think to set put the stats on the floor as far as the number of people that have attended over the years, I think that's a fairly clear picture as far as that no significant number of people have come later meetings as to the 5:30 meetings. So I'm sure you may wish to respond to my statement, so you're more than welcome to.
No, just generally, thank you for providing those statistics. I would encourage my fellow councillors to look at, I guess, the stats you just put forward is what has been, and I would encourage fellow councillors to have a think about what it could be.
Councillor Wood? Sorry, we'll get to you, Councillor Penny. I know that you had a question.
I feel that we're all making an assumption that changing it to 6 o'clock won't make any difference, but we have nothing to show that that is the case. And can I foreshadow an amendment to
By
the
all
motion?
means. Well, actually, no, you can't,
That-
because you can't until we've resumed standing orders.
Oh, sorry, we're still doing standing orders, though.
So there's, so if you want to,
okay. Sorry, I didn't realise. I thought
so
you
if you
rescinded standing orders.
if you have got anything else to say, then I guess say it and save that for when we resume
Okay.
standing orders. Councillor Penny.
Thank you, and I really want to thank my fellow councillors for the informal conversation and debate, if you like, that we're having on this issue. A common theme that's come up is the lack of evidence, and I thank our Mayor for providing the information and the statistics. I will note that those statistics flowed back to, I think, 2019, and that we were hosting 7 p.m. Council meetings way before that. Post-COVID, we are in a different world, and people's travel movements, their expectations and their willingness to engage online has increased. So even though we can pull together stats and reports from what's happened previously, it's not going to give us a true picture of what's happening in the here and now unless we trial it. And I most probably, I will preempt, foreshadow as well. We were both thinking a foreshadowed motion, but while we've suspended orders here, yeah, I would be really interested to see how this plays out over, say, an 18-month period. Would you? And yeah, you know, there's areas that I'm interested in how this lands when we're looking at, say, any reforms that might happen to standing orders and those kinds of things. We're in a brave new world, and we're not going to know what this looks like until we give it a go. Another point that I'm curious about or interested in is the civic engagement that occurs before items come to council. So, for example, community members might put through questions or items that get resolved before they come to council, which is great if they're happy with those answers. What I'm concerned about is if there are things that would come to council that we would have debate, we would have conversation on, but it's just a bit easier to get that resolved, get that signed off, and then not bring it into a public forum, because it is a daunting forum to participate in. So in that as well, I just don't know if we have a full picture right now. I mean, we could recommend to do, you know, a deep dive report, what's happened in the past, how many people have come to council meetings over a 8-year period, how many questions come to council, are submitted by community members but not, you know, that are resolved prior to them coming to council. How many times have somebody said, I want to put in a deputation, and then pulled out at the last minute? That's a decent amount of work for somebody to gather. Yeah, my thoughts are I'll have a crack at it and see where we go. So,
Councillor Sargent.
Like I said, with this conversation, trial, I guess my main bugbear since I've had time to process from our initial telephone conversation is, should we be trialling this in winter when it is like, just, yeah, coming back to if we are offering that opportunity to go, yes, we're potentially including this, I see us potentially disadvantaging the vulnerable in our community's ability to have their say. Sorry, is just when we're discussing having a potential trial and that's getting thrown out there, I don't know, it's not sitting right with me.
Does anyone else like to speak? No? I will move to resume Standing Order 9, seconded Deputy Mayor. All in favour? Against? You were at 4 or against, Councillor? 4? So we've resumed Standing Orders. I believe we had someone speak for it. We formerly had someone speak against at 4. Everyone else has really spoken. I'll give Councillor, unless someone else wanted to speak against, because that's where we're at. Otherwise, I'll give Councillor Brown the opportunity to close. Foreshadow away.
I'd just like to foreshadow a change in the motion. I haven't. Could you bring it down on the screen for me? Okay, thank you. That direct the. Let's have a look. Okay. Amend the scheduled ordinary council meetings for a trial period of 18 months to reflect that the meeting commencement time shall be 6 p.m. So even if it starts now in winter, it will go through a better time of the year as well.
Could I suggest that you make it a period of 6 months to the end of the calendar year, because that actually gives you winter and it gives you the warmer months. I'm pretty sure you should have a relatively good picture by that stage.
Yeah, I agree with that. 6 months would be fine.
So
It
for
goes
the
through
conclusion of the year. Sorry? Councillor Wood is foreshadowing, and I'm.
Let me
seeking-
think about this for a minute. No, I think I agree. I think it should be 12 months. Give us a whole year and see how it goes. So that gives the community a chance to get used to the idea that it will be
Sorry.
at 6 o'clock.
Just from a governance point of view, it's actually, we generally advertise our meetings by the calendar year. So I guess the reason for the 6 months is that suggestion. And then by all means, there's nothing stopping you from, at the point where we set the meeting dates for the following year, that you can, based on what's occurred in that 6 months, can have some comment in relation to the dates and times.
I think it needs a period of time for the public to get to realise and get used to the idea that it does begin at 6 o'clock rather than 5:30. So I think we need quite a lengthy period of time.
So your foreshadow formally is
12 months,
12 months. So from June till June.
June to June.
Okay.
Can you ask a question or?
You can ask a question.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. What impact does that have to the city doing, if you're saying we advertise for a year to make this change in the middle of a year? Is this something that should maybe be trialled January to December next year, like in an advertised period, or?
There'll be a cost regardless, because it's got to be advertised in a newspaper at a cost. Councillor Brown, you have a question?
Sorry, is
As long
that
as it's a
true?
question, please stand.
Is it true that you have to advertise in the newspaper? When we changed the time of the special council meeting on a previous occasion, I'm not aware that that was advertised in the newspaper.
Just looking across the yeah, we'll check the.
I believe the regulation probably would start, and I believe is my word. Sorry, Mr. Elkins, can you just turn your microphone and just relay exactly what was said just for the public?
Through you, Your Worship, when we do a one-off change at short notice, we don't have to do a public notice, but if we go and change for the next 6 months, we will have to formally change our meeting time, so that will have to be formally advertised. In the same way we advertise for the full year formally. The regs are still old school, so we normally, when we do public notices, have to put them in the newspaper.
Any other just random questions before Councillor Brown has the opportunity to close? Councillor Penny, I hope it's a question. It needs to be a question. It can't be a statement.
Okay.
It can't have a long preamble either.
No, I'll be brief. In this regard, we've had great conversation about when we should start considerations around, commencing this trial during winter, etc. Is it possible, if we were to favourably support a foreshadowed motion, could we then make a decision to commence? What's the process to decide when we commence that? Like, could we then make a decision to commence in the calendar year from January to December? Is there an option for elected members to make that choice separate from agreeing to a trial?
Just a point of order, Your Worship. We're actually asking questions and near on debating a foreshadowed motion without actually dealing with the motion at hand.
Correct. Let's.
So that was my question in procedurally. How do we make those decisions?
We can go down the same process we have done this evening to change the dates and times again.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
I'll give you the opportunity to close. Councillor Brown. You confused?
Can I ask a question? Just, I'm not sure what we're voting on.
So we're voting on your motion, which is to change the time to 6 o'clock.
Oh, but on the screen here, we've got for a trial period of 12 months. So
That's the minute secretary being thorough in getting ready for the preemptive foreshadowed motion.
okay. Yeah, no, thank you, Your Worship. I think I just want to thank my fellow councillors for, I guess, the debate, the conversation that this did prompt. I think that's a good example of democracy and local government process at hand. I would just like to state that the original intention was kind of gets in the form of a trial, which would expire at the usual time where we do make this decision again at the end of the year. So that's why it would have been a 6-month period. Just didn't word it as a trial. But yeah, no further comments from my side. Again, just really appreciate the conversation that has been prompted here.
Okay, so keep in mind there is a foreshadowed motion, just in case you want to choose your own adventure. So the motion that we're voting on is Councillor Brown's motion that the schedule of council meetings be amended by way of changing the time to 6 o'clock, just so we're clear that's what you're voting for. So, all in favour? Against? Motion lost. Foreshadowed motion? Councillor Wood, would you like to move your motion?
Yes, as I said, we're making assumptions that it won't make any difference if we start at 5:30 or 6:30, but we have no way of knowing that without having a trial to see if it actually does have a difference between the times. And as Councillor Brown said too, we're the only council in the area, in our local area, that starts so early. Most of them are 6 o'clock or even 7 o'clock. So I propose that we give it a go and have a trial period to see if it does make a difference. And if it doesn't make a difference, well, it's only a trial period. Thank you.
We're this far deep, may as well.
Thank you, Mayor.
As long, again, it's a question, not a statement.
No, this is a question. Thank you, Mayor Feasy. You made a comment saying, or actually, Mike, someone just made a comment saying to do a trial before the new time is set. So, in January, is it a staff or is it a council? How is the time set for a council meeting?
So the time and dates are set by way of a resolution of council of the last meeting of the year or the second last meeting of the year. An item comes to council which lists all the dates, and at that same time it lists the time of the council meeting. And you vote on it.
At that vote, we could make adjustments at that time?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So, Councillor Wood's foreshadowed motion is exactly the same as Councillor Brown's, which even though I didn't say it was a 6-month trial period, Councillor Wood is a 12-month trial period, correct?
Have we got two foreshadowed?
No, I'm just saying what Michael's original motion was. So if you're, voting for is to vote for the... Deputy Mayor? Please stand, microphone.
Is it Councillor Brown's motion not the intent that he wanted it for the 6-month trial, or is it the intention that he wanted it to be a permanent changing of the time?
Well, the motion certainly didn't state that it was a 6-month period, so I guess the intent was that the time was changing. Whether that was the intent or not, that's the way that the motion read. You can point of order if you want. Sure.
I'm not sure if it's a point of order or just a clarification. I guess the original motion states for the 2024, so that would just be the calendar year.
Yeah.
So, sorry. Do we have, so Councillor Woods is for a 12-month period which takes us through to middle of 25 then. We're all happy with that? So that's what we're voting for. So we're voting to change the council meeting time. Can we have a seconder to seconded Councillor Brown?
Can you just give a second so they can put that into...
Sure. Used to be street names that were controversial at a council meeting.
Thank you.
Councillor Wood, would you like to speak for your item?
Well, as I've said previously, I think that the community needs a period of time to come to realise that the meetings are starting at 6 instead of 5:30, and we would need to see the progression of how many people come in, and if it doesn't make any difference, well, at the end of 12 months we can go back to our 5:30 meetings.
Councillor Brown, would you like to speak for the motion?
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I'm supportive of this motion, and I think it's a really great sign that this adjustment was off the back of the discussion, the debate that has taken place in here, and hopefully it does alleviate some of those concerns around, I guess, the clear stats that would support this. Again, I would note that I would love for this to be considered in the way that we're not looking at what has been as what could be, and what could be, we need the evidence to support that. And right now, I guess the structure and the process that have been in place in the past haven't supported something like that.
Would someone like to speak against? Councillor Rouse?
Thank you, Worship. I'm against the change for now, as stated in my previous ramble. I think it's best that so we don't go through the processes of re-advertising, going through the newspapers, changing our times for now. I think we should just wait to the end of the year when we do every year put our schedule and timings of our meeting up for that full year. I think if we want a 12-month trial next year, if the council decides then, we have a full 12-month trial under what we actually decide in the council resolution, as we normally do the second last or the last meeting of the year. So I think now to go for a 12-month trial, when the original notice of motion was for a 6-month trial, which wasn't quite relayed as such. We've now gone from what could have been a 6-month trial to a 12-month trial, which ends halfway through the year, which then would force us maybe to re-advertise all the rest of our meetings for that last 6 months of the year. So I think we should just stick with what we've got for now. We'll wait until the end of the year. We can have that discussion amongst council and that debate when the necessary time comes for that time. Thank you, Worship.
Would you like to speak for? No? Councillor Wood, would you like to close?
I actually agree with Councillor Rouse. I actually haven't stipulated on there when it should commence, and I think it might be a good idea to commence at the beginning of next year and go through to the end of the year, so it gives us a full 12 months, which would make it easier for the administration as well.
So if that's if that's how you feel, would you like to withdraw your motion, Councillor Wood?
Yes. The trial period of 12 months doesn't actually say when it has to start, so I neglected to add that in.
I'm actually just now going to put the motion. So the motion is that the trial be commence as of the most practical advertising process as per your resolution, which is exactly as Councillor Brown's was, but adding a trial period of 12 months. So that's what you're voting for. So put the motion to the vote. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. Motion lost. And as Councillor Rouse did allude to, nothing's ever over. There's an opportunity to have further conversations in relation to this particular issue. As I did state to you, Councillor Brown, I wasn't necessarily for or against. I think that there's probably some other ways of encouraging people to come rather than changing the time, and I think that's the conversation that council should be having about some maybe creative ways to get people involved with council meetings rather than this changing a time as a wholesale thing. So I'll just wait for the minute secretary to catch up. There is nothing on item 20. There's nothing on item 21, no urgent business. Reports of elected members.
Thank you, Your Worship. Attended the Bullamara morning tea. We had the meeting on the 10th. The Audit Risk Committee meeting with our fellow councillors on that committee. Also the JDAP on the 6th with Councillor Rouse. Attended the Community Services Sundowner on the 6th. Was well represented, and it was put on by City of Kwinana, the office of Roger Cook, MLA, and the City of Rockingham. It was a great evening and a great venue down at the bowling club. I would also like to make you aware that I attended a panel session for the Municipal Association of Victoria. They've got local government election coming up very shortly, and it was in support of more diversity and low socioeconomic groups to participate in council elections and a way to have a voice through Parliament, through council. And also attended on the 28th the Rockingham Kwinana Chamber of Commerce after business hours function, which was also well attended. So it's been a pretty busy couple of days. That's my report. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Acker.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor Peter Feasy. On Monday, 27th of May, I attended the round 2 of the Business Support Grants panel alongside Councillor Rouse and Councillor Sargent. On the 28th of May, I took part in the Lyric Assessment panel ahead of the City of Kwinana Lyric Awards evening, which I believe is scheduled for next Wednesday, the 19th of June. I'll reserve my comments for after the event, but I will say this. The things that our young people are doing in this city, it really is mind-blowing. With their individual and collective achievements, I can honestly say that they're changing the world, and I'm so proud that the City of Kwinana has initiatives like Lyric to acknowledge and support them on those journeys. On the 28th of May, I attended the Wellard Village 7-day makeover 1-year anniversary at the Wellard. Thursday the 6th of June, I also attended alongside fellow elected members the Community Services Sundowner at Kwinana Golf Course. On the 7th of June, I attended a Community Awards evening at Medina Hall, celebrating our recent City of Kwinana Community Award recipients alongside their family and friends. It really was an evening jam-packed with community connection, stories, plenty of laughs, good times, great food from the Green Barista, and I would say even some dancing to wind up the festivities. Congratulations again to Person of the Year Claire Karju, Senior Person of the Year Bodak Keller, Community Group of the Year Wellard Village People, and the Highly Commended Award going to Cara Smith. And on Sunday the 9th of June, I attended the Community Planting Day at Runnymede Bushland, where I joined around 20 locals and saw a whopping 800 trees and plants in the ground by the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Kearney.
I've got nothing to report.
Thank you. Councillor Penny.
Thank you. Along with my fellow councillors, I attended the RKCC City of Kwinana Business Sundowner, Business After Hours, and the on the 28th of May, and the Community Awards celebration in Medina on the 7th of June. Both were exceptional events and really showed the level of engagement from our business community and more social community, if you like, on the 7th of June. Both fantastic events representing staff of the city and the community. Also today sat on the Public Art Review panel. Some fantastic projects coming forward, and it's just great to see the city's public art going from strength to strength. And I'd say keep your eyes peeled for the things that are happening in Medina with some public art that's being reinvigorated with the support of the Medina Residents Group. Watch this space.
Thank you. Councillor Rouse.
Thank you, Your Worship. Along with some of those other events, I'd just like to say the JDAP that the Deputy Mayor and I went to Thursday the 6th of June was the Childcare Centre in Apsley Estate that the panel approved. Yesterday, the 11th of June, I chaired the LEMC meeting elected management committee meeting for those playing along at home, and happy to say that there were no major reports from any of the agencies, so that's always good to hear. On the side note, Councillor Brown mentioned the Wellard Village People's Community Awards, the Kwinana Community Awards celebration that the Wellard Village people hosted in Medina Hall the other night, and I'd just like to thank you, Your Worship, for coming along and presenting those awards to those awardees that Councillor Brown read out before. So thank you very much. I think it was a wonderful evening, so full of YMCA.
Councillor Sargent.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Feasy. Since I last attended council, Councillor Brown has touched on the business grants that I attended with Councillor Rouse as well. It's fantastic to see the city supporting the community's business endeavours. I want to touch on also when we attended the Community Services Sundowner that a lot of our councillors were there. If you are unaware that celebration was regarding the by names list, and if you've never heard that term before, it is this amazing community initiative that I commend the city working with Rockingham and Mandurah, I believe, to empower this program that's sole focus is to have people that are experiencing homelessness find a roof over their head. And if you didn't see all the statistics on the screen, this project has done so much, and I have personally in my other work life seen the results of it. So that just, if you didn't get warm feelies or you didn't quite understand it, that was an amazing thing, and I highly commend the City of Kwinana for being a part of it. I attended a planting day with the wonderful Mayor Feasy. Apparently my triangles for plants with my stakes is not the same version of triangles as other councillors in the room, but that was a fantastic opportunity surrounded by community. Today, I also attended the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day that some fantastic seniors in our community were at the Kwinana Marketplace educating and advocating. And I would also, if you're watching live stream, to notice that all of your councillors and your fantastic directors are wearing lovely ribbons in support of that. So go team, we're in it together to say that elder abuse is a real problem in our community and should be talked about, addressed and stopped. The only other thing is with the audit and risk, just to report to councillors that were not present, two prevailing comments that I had from sitting through that particular meeting would be regarding the fact that the City of Kwinana is improving good governance practices that are set to prevent the disadvantage of our future generations in the policies and the risk assessments that they're doing. And also the other major comment that I had was the dedication to a strong approach to risk management, and even with some of the risks being outside of their hierarchy of control at the time, they are proactively engaged in risk mitigation and upcoming risk identification. So the city staff and officers that we have that put time and effort into that are doing a fantastic job. Thank you.
Councillor Wood.
I've performed all those duties required of me. I went along to the Stakeholders Sundowner, which was held at Kalini Arts Centre. It was well attended and very pleasant evening, which I'm sure the guests enjoyed, our hospitality. I attended the Alcoa CCN meeting where the dune restoration at Challenger Beach was discussed. The NRM have partnered with Alcoa on this restoration. A representative from NRM gave a presentation on what was happening at the beach. Over 50,000 plants have been planted in the past, and now the focus is on planting spinifex on the dunes to retard the erosion. One of the outcomes of the restoration is a marked increase in the quenda population. Between 2023 and 2025, NRM will spend $3,000 per year on the beach, and they were also recently awarded a $5,000 grant to help control bridleweed on Challenger Beach. The NRM's objective is to manage coastal erosion by stabilising the dunes. Cameras are also being used to monitor any changes to the dunes due to erosion. Alcoa is still looking into purchasing new dust suppression equipment, which would go onto the jetty to decrease the amount of dust being released while the alumina is being loaded onto ships. I also attended the SWEPDEF meeting, followed by the Environmental Forum, where a presentation was given on the shot hole borer, which is posing a real threat to trees. The borer is not eating the wood, rather the females plant fungus into the holes and it bores into the wood. It propagates this and uses the fungus as food. It was first detected on the 6th of August 21 in East Fremantle, which was the first infestation in Australia. WA has initiated the largest biosecurity response to this threat in its history. Fortunately, WA can learn from the attempts by other countries to eradicate this pest. Fungicides, pest sprays and systemic chemicals all do not work. Affected trees become very hazardous due to their branches being weakened. The only treatment option is pruning or removing of infested trees on a case-by-case basis. The use of chipping machines on site actually kills the beetles due to the aggressive shaking. The wood chips are then taken to Richgrove for further treatment. Properties with this pest are quarantined. No wood of any sort is to be removed. Trapping grids are set up to the distance of 1.5 kilometres within the quarantine area, with a few outside that distance. They're checked every 2 weeks. Once a property is treated and checked and after 6 months is cleaned, the property will be released from the quarantine. There are several trees that can be affected, but the top host trees are the box elder, the black locust, coral tree. It actually even infests avocado trees as well. The response from local government include training, early detection, reporting, avoidance of planting the species of reproductive trees as verge or bark trees, and early detection can save trees as pruning may be enough. Educating the community is really important. We also had a presentation with the City of Melville on their success with their natural area management strategy, where teams were formed for each of the following areas: foreshore, bushland, wetlands, water quality and projects. They've achieved promising success with this strategy and have attained federal funding for the initiative. We also had a presentation on the snake-necked turtles. Many of the dead turtles found in the dry Bibra Lake were killed by foxes. There needs to be an organised approach by local government and the state government for funding for fox control. The City of Melville is at the moment formulating an action plan for this. I also attended the Community Services Sundowner at the Golf Club, which was a delightful evening, very informative. And along with Councillor Kearney, I attended an Access and Inclusion Reference group meeting. And today I popped down to the marketplace to speak with the people with the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Very lovely elderly ladies fighting for a good cause.
Thank you. There is no answers to questions taken on notice. Mayoral announcements. I've attended all of those things plus more. The CEO and I met with some ministers in relation to a couple of different issues. One of the issues is the ongoing funding of the Arc Light program. For those councillors that remember, it's the program that's working intensively with the young people at the zone. So we met with the Chief of Staff to the Minister for Communities to discuss some funding opportunities with that. And again, I attended all those other meetings plus many others. And as Councillor Sargent alluded to, there was a stall today at the Kwinana Marketplace to, I guess, promote World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and I do congratulate the ladies from the Savvy Seniors as well as the city staff that were involved in that stall. This is the second year in a row that they have put some information out and taken the time to spread the word. I'll just give you a little bit of insight in relation to World Elder Abuse. So it's United Nations General Assembly in Resolution 66/127. So it designated the 15th of June as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So it is an international day. It is actually Saturday. I think it's Saturday. And just for those people unaware, so elder abuse comes in many forms. It can be a financial, emotional, psychological, physical, sexual, or social. Elder abuse can occur once or many times and can vary in severity from subtle through to extreme. It can include one or more combinations of these different types of abuse. Most often, elder abuse is carried out by someone known to the older person, with 2/3 of abusers being an adult child. Abusers can also be other family members, relatives, or friends. And again, by thanking the Savvy Seniors in the work that they've done, they have actually been advocating to the government to actually put this issue on the state government's agenda. In other states, in other countries, elder abuse is mandatory. In Western Australia, it is not. There are a number of things in place to assist people with elder abuse, but again, it's not a mandatory requirement for people to report elder abuse. And the ladies from Savvy Seniors have written to various ministers. I arranged a meeting for them to meet with the Premier to put it on the government's agenda, so hopefully they will continue to advocate on behalf of those issues for elders in our community. There are no confidential items, so I declare the meeting closed at 7:10. Thank you for all attending.